What if you could listen to someone who is successful in the music industry and have them share their knowledge, their insight, and give you valuable tips on how you can succeed in the music industry? Well, if that's you, this podcast episode is for you. I'm speaking with my good friend, Miss Dana Clark, who is a massively successful person in the music industry. So enjoy this podcast episode. So, Dana, your passion and love for music is really evident in your performance. Like, it comes out and you can really tell that you love music. How did you get started? Like, where did that interest come from? Like, what was the initial spark for music for you?
I mean, as far as I can remember, far back as I can remember, I just know that growing up in church, I don't want it to make it sound like it's a cliche. Everybody says I started in church, but like I literally started in church, being at church all the time, hearing music, singing, while the adult choir is singing, I'm just singing away. And, I think it's just something that I grew into. It just didn't happen overnight. It's something that I just grew into, that I grew to love at an early age.
Sure. Yeah, that's a familiar story for a lot of us singers and musicians starting in church like that. And it's always fascinating to kind of see that journey from that initial spark. I know it was the same with me as well. So take us from there. Like when you started with that initial spark in your journey, like where did you start in the music industry from there? Did you start singing like anything professionally at a young age, or what did you do?
Well, from there, my parents or my mom, she began to just like enroll me into like, performance after school community events. She signed me up for piano lessons. Oh my God, that was an experience. And I wish that I stuck through it, but my piano teacher was so mean at the time. And so it deterred me from that. But if I knew what I know now, back then, I would have stuck through it. And so I would have just attained a whole different type of level of musicianship. But I started to participate in community events. Everybody wanted me to sing. And I say everybody, but, I was invited to sing at, family reunions and, so forth and so on. And then when I got into high school, I enrolled in choir, and I was selected out of tons of high schoolers throughout the country. They only selected 14 jazz singers. And I think that's where it really started. I was a part of the All-American Grammy Jazz Ensemble, which they flew us out to New York. We got a chance to perform at the Grammy nominee party. We recorded a jazz album. So it just kind of, that opened the door for me, and just telling me that, you can do this professionally. So I want to say at the age of 16, I started to perform professionally.
Nice. So yeah, that's always a fascinating thing as well. Like that, I've seen a lot of musicians and singers start as kids, and then they get that spark. They go on talent shows, and like you said, sing at the family reunions and all of that kind of stuff. And that really kind of starts their career off.
Yeah.
And with that, I think during that journey, each of us we encounter our own sort of set of challenges and obstacles that we kind of just encounter on that path. Talk about some of the struggles and obstacles and things that you may have had during your journey, and, discuss how you overcame them. Like, what was your way to get through those struggles?
Well, like you said, there were several obstacles that I had to endure throughout this process. One was just the exposure, finding the right person to expose my talent in a safe way, right? And so that was a struggle for me, because after I did the American Idol, we signed a contract. It was like a 2-year contract, and I feel like I was at the height of my potential to be exposed. And so that kind of dampened my spirits when I could not sign to a major label because of that reason. That was an obstacle that I had to overcome. And, God makes no mistakes. And so I trust and I believe that my path was meant to be where it is today. I also struggled with vocally. I had a tumor on my vocal cords. So I didn't know if I was going to be able to sing after they removed it. But to God be the glory, I came out better than I was before. So those are the two of the things that I feel like that really shaped who I am today as far as my testimony and me really pushing and working hard in that aspect for music. My love for music and then my tenacity and the grit that I had to develop to keep pushing through despite those obstacles that I faced.
Yeah, that's really really enlightening. Talk a little bit about the American Idol process, though. So, I mean, that's a really that's a like a crown jewel on your resume.
Yeah.
You auditioned for American Idol and you were on there and you got selected and everything. So, walk us through that process. Like, how did that start? Like, what made you want to get on American Idol first of all, and then like the audition process and all of that. How did it go?
Well, it was the second season, so we watched the first season. That's the inaugural season. So we just didn't really know what to expect. I thought it was like, man, just imagine if I could even just audition for the American Idol and be on TV. And so with my mom and, friends and my church ministry, they encouraged me to audition for it. Why not? So I did what you call the Austin Idol, where if you were selected, you didn't have to wait in line. You were like the number one or two spot to audition the first level. And so I ended up winning Austin Idol, which was really cool. They put me up in a nice hotel and I didn't have to sleep outside. I know most of the time you see those people on TV, they all had to tents and they camped outside. I was blessed because I did not have to do that. So I auditioned, and I think there were like 3 levels in Austin, and I made it to the top level when I first met Ryan Seacrest. He is so hilarious. Like the Ryan now is the same Ryan that I met, when the second season of American Idol. And so from there, I went to Hollywood, and then there were different levels that we had to go through. And so I made it to that very last level before everyone started to do the top 10 or 12. I can't remember. It's been many moons ago. But just meeting those individuals that are celebrities and superstars now, they were right there with me auditioning. And so that was just a life experience. And then, like I said before, I didn't know that when you audition for shows like that, you're almost like gridlock. You're locked in for a couple of years before you can be able to be released to do whatever you choose to do musically. And so those are some of the things that, I would definitely, do a little different or think differently. But it was a fun experience. And, a lot of times people are like, you were on American Idol? But I'm like, oh, that was long, long, long time ago.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And it's, your experiences and the things that you've overcome and your struggles and, that American Idol experience and all of that can be a really enlightening sort of guiding light for a lot of people. So what would you say is like one piece of advice that you would give like an upcoming musician, upcoming singer who wants to get into this industry, who wants to sing professionally, who wants to, gig kind of like the sort of corporate style gigs and all that kind of stuff that we do and, just get themselves out there? What advice would you give them? Are you a musician, artist, or band looking to make some serious passive income and build a huge fan base? Then you should absolutely start a YouTube channel today. And that's because right now, YouTube is the biggest opportunity for bands and musicians to make money and build a huge following around their craft. And this is the reason that the premier YouTube QuickStart course for musicians was created. This course is designed to get you up and running on YouTube very quickly and easily. And the best part is it's completely free and you can get instant access to it at the link in the description of this video.
And be it that I am, an educator, I'm an administrator, I'm a principal of a junior high, I'm always encouraging my students in general to just trust yourself. And don't sell yourself, first off. It's really important that you keep integrity and your character is everything. things will happen the way they're supposed to happen. And you don't have to sell yourself short just because you see other people out there doing it. I didn't have to do that. I didn't compromise who I was as a person. I didn't have to sell myself physically to get a record deal. But I still, at the age that I am, I still can say that I love doing what I do, but I didn't have to sell myself short to get there. So my advice to all young people, just stay true to yourself, work hard, put the work in, and God will bless you beyond your dreams. So, if like I said, if there's any advice that I could give, it would be that.
Yeah, definitely. Wise words indeed. Very, very wise words.
Yeah.
You got to stick to it, man. It's about that consistency and holding out. I'm really glad you brought up, not selling yourself short. I think a lot of people who get into the music industry, even females and males alike, and, every gender expression out there, get into the music industry and they feel like they have to do certain things to like make it, even not even just like their bodies or, all of that kind of stuff, but just like act or be a certain way.
Yeah.
And that's not necessary. You can really just be yourself and be who you are and just work hard and stay consistent. And, your time will come.
It will come. And, I know we're in a society now that, social media dictates what the world wants. Yeah. But at some point, who's going to be that trailblazer to say, I don't have to do this. I can do something else different, which, will gain exposure or gain popularity. But it's just being that person to say, I want to be that trailblazer.
Yeah, absolutely. So in your singing and stuff, and we've known each other for a long time now. So, and I kind of know your vocal style and all of that kind of stuff. But who are some of the influential people and vocalists and musicians who have kind of influenced your style of singing and performing?
I'm old school. So I just growing up listening to the Aretha Franklins, the Patti LaBelle's, Anita Baker's, but out of everyone that, and even some of my classical singers, Leotine Price. A lot of people don't even know who she is, but she is a renowned opera singer. Just in the moment where I'm perfecting my craft, that's who I would listen to. But my all-time, person or model that I really looked up to, especially in my early years, is Whitney Houston. I mean, just that authentic voice. She didn't have to do a whole lot of runs, or she didn't have to, be loud. Her voice was just it was sultry. It just had like a beautiful melodic sound that came out of her mouth, and just, I mean, she was beyond her years, and so I look at the good things that came out of Whitney, and so even to this day, I still listen to her music, and I know you're not supposed to have an idol, but she is really my American Idol,
Sure.
Whitney Houston, and I don't think, people think about her as far as vocally, but I think about her as also a musical genius, the things that she could do just with her vocals and just certain things that she stood for, in her early years. I admire that.
Yeah, I can definitely hear Whitney's influence on your voice. So you be holding it down, man, when we do those Whitney songs.
Oh,
so yeah,
man, that's my girl.
Yeah, I mean, I love Whitney too. I mean, there's no conversation to be had where you're discussing greatest vocalists, greatest singers of all time, where her name doesn't come up.
I mean, she's the GOAT.
She is she's the one.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. So now with all of that, I think in the music industry, it takes a little bit more than talent. Like, it requires more than talent to succeed. You kind of have to have some other things going about yourself, like some, a good personality and things like that. So in your opinion and in your experience, what would you say is one of the most important traits for a musician or singer or anybody that's just trying to succeed in the music industry to have? Like, what's the important trait for them to have? Maybe even one or two traits to have.
The first thing that comes to mind is just having that humble spirit, right? We have some really talented people out there, but there are some very talented people out there that are difficult to work with because they know they're talented.
Yeah.
You don't want to be that person that's known that, oh, she good, but you don't want to work with her because her attitude stinks. She's always, negative, or if it's not done right, she, curses you out or whatnot. But just having that, just being humble, just having that spirit of compassion, always hungry to learn new things. And so if you're coming in there with the attitude of I know everything, I mean, yes, you could have a long career, but that stamp next to your name is somebody difficult to work with. So be that person that I love to work with this person because their spirit is just warm. They're always willing to collaborate, have a collaborative spirit. No one wants to say it's my way or the highway. So I think that's one of the most, or two of the most important things that you could carry, is that having that collaborative spirit and also having that humbling spirit.
Yeah, humility. I mean, that is the thing that will take you through, and it's really weird because we know so many musicians who are not that. You know what I'm
Mm-mm.
saying? They feel like they have to show up and run things. They feel like they have to be in charge. They feel like they have to be the person with the light on them, so to speak. And it makes the working experience with them really difficult, and nobody really wants to work with them. There's a few people here in our city that,
Mm-hmm.
like, when you say their name, everybody just like, they
Yeah.
give you that look, right? So it's like, it's weird though, right?
Yep.
Because,
Yep.
and I have conversations with musician friends of mine all the time, and there's a certain name in my head that I won't say, but when this person's name comes up, everybody's always like, man, and then everybody has a story about what happened
Yeah.
about this person,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah. Yeah.
it's funny because that person is just like what you're saying. That person, nobody wants to work with him. He's a very, very talented musician, extremely talented, but nobody wants to work with him. So,
Yeah, yeah, and it's so important, even just think with singers and musicians.
mm,
I mean, I can agree with you. When I think of certain musicians, I'm like, yeah, I don't even want to ask or fool with that person because it's like it's either on their time, or if they think this song should be structured this way, this is how it should go, and I don't want to take any other suggestions or ideas from that person. And so, like, humility is important. Like, your name and your character is everything. And if you're labeled as that person, you know everyone or most people don't want to work with. Look at how much, one, money you losing, and then two, exposure that you're not being or lacking in that sense.
yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
absolutely right, man.
it's
That's
really
absolutely right.
important.
So, as a Whitney Houston connoisseur that you are,
Mm-hmm.
we do a lot of gigs, and
Mm-hmm.
during peak season for us,
Mm-hmm.
we're 2-3 nights a week,
Mm-hmm.
back to back. That with your own personal life, with you being a principal and all
Mm-hmm.
of that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff,
Mm-hmm.
it can be really taxing. So,
Yeah.
how do you maintain your vocal health, like, during those times, or period, just overall? Like, what are the things that you do to keep yourself in tip top shape, to maintain that level of consistency in your vocals, through like a really extended path where we're doing 2 or 3, 4 or 5 nights a week
Mm-hmm.
on gigs? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing to maintain that?
Well, for one, I'm lots of hot tea, but just like we our intention or our goal is to keep our body in tip top shape. And when we feel like it's not, we go to the doctor. So I have a vocal doctor here in the city that I go and see quite often, just to see where my vocals are, what remedies I need to use to keep them healthy. And honestly, ever since I've had my surgery, my vocals have been they've been trained to, whether to rest itself, or I can push it, or not. My vocals have pretty much been trained, but I do a lot of drink a lot of tea. I take, and of course, the antihistamine, but I go and see my vocal doctor on a regular basis. I mean, you have to invest in that. It's really important. You just can't just push it all the time. And then, most importantly, vocal rest, knowing when to rest, and making sure, and we say this all the time, that when we're out and we're performing, making sure that the sound is right, That is so important to save your voice, your vocal cords. To save them is to make sure that you can, one, hear that the music and the level is correct to the point where it supports you and you're not supporting it. I think those are the things that you have to make sure that are in place in order for you to last vocally during those tough
Very,
seasons.
very well said. Very well said. You echo what a lot of professional vocalists say about vocal care, vocal hair health, and their sound.
Yeah.
When they're on stage and all of that kind of stuff. And speaking of being on stage, one of the things that you are really great at is entertaining and engaging an audience. Like I think that's a specialty of yours. I mean, along with dynamic vocals, you got the whole package. And I think that's something that's really, really important. It's one of those things that a lot of singers and bands just overlook. They focus on, getting all of the notes right and the harmonies and all of that kind of stuff. And you absolutely should do that. But it's at the end of the day, you have to connect with an audience. So what are some tips or what are some strategies that you use when you're performing and when you're in front of these large crowds that we tend to play for, keeping them engaged when people are coming there, they have things going on, they're coming to party, they're coming to see somebody else and all of that kind of stuff. And then you keep their attention. What are the strategies that you use to do that?
I mean, I make that person or those individuals feel like they're the only person in the room that I'm drawing in. I think it's important that when people are there to see you sing, or like we're a corporate band, so a lot of times we're the entertainment. We want to keep the everybody hyped. It's important to make those people feel like they're important. And so when you do that, people are like, man, she's singing to me. She's singing one of my favorite songs. She's inviting me on the stage. We're singing a song together. Just a event we just recently did. I believe it was a debutante ball. I invited someone to come up on the stage and sing a song with me. And then she whispered in my ear, she was like, oh my God, you made my night. I've never done this before. And I know I can't sing, as good as you, but you really just made it fun. And that's just letting yourself go, and just saying, like, it's not about necessarily me. We're hired to bring entertainment and to bring joy to people's experience, when they're there, whether it's a gala or it's a wedding, especially weddings. Weddings are really important. This is something that's going to last forever, especially through, video or people or just those who are attending. You want them to say, you all, I mean, out of everything else, we really enjoyed that band. That band was so energetic. They were engaging. So when I walk on that stage, that's the first thing. How can I engage these people that they'll talk about us for years to come? And I think just because of my profession too, being an educator, you're in front of kids all day. And if you just have this monotone voice, if you don't have anything that's engaging or with your lesson, you're going to lose them. And I feel that the same way with your audience. You look at these artists like Beyonce or Usher, or even on the gospel side, Ty Tribbett. They don't just go out there and just sing a song. They're engaging the audience. That's right. That transcends in the ministry. You can't just go on the stage and start singing. Yes, it's vertical to God, but you can't draw people in if you're just sitting there, oh, I worship thee, and nothing, and that's it. They want to know that you're just as into it as they are.
Yeah, that's so true. So yeah. True. And again, that's something that you really shine and do great at. And I think that's why we all work well together, because everybody knows kind of how to let you do that and let you do your thing. Do your thing. So that's really cool. So like, what else do you have going on? Like, what's next for you in your journey? Like, any CDs, any albums coming, any recordings, any projects that you're working on? I know you're like crazy busy.
Right.
Thank you for being here, by the way, because I know you stay busy all the time. But
thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. But so what's next for you? What are you working on? Like, any music projects that you have coming up or anything that you want to do in the future?
Well, I really do. I've evolved, it not only just as a singer, but just as a woman, spiritually as well too. So, my goal is to hopefully in the next couple of years, I want to create some type of contemporary worship album. Whether it's just EP. I want to do something that I feel like that will definitely gain that substance. And just where I am right now in my life and where I will continue to be, I feel like that's kind of where I'm moving more towards, and continue to just perform with the corporate. I love doing that, so that's my ultimate goal. And so hopefully you and I, Terrence, we can get on top of that sooner than later, sir.
Yeah, go ahead and call me out on the podcast in public so we can. Yeah, I can make it happen. That's how. See,
He's gonna make it
how
happen
people
for
do.
me. Yeah, he's gonna make it happen for me. I trust and believe. Yes.
Well, Dana, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable knowledge on this podcast. I'm sure it's something that people can take and run with. It's really, really valuable knowledge and experience that you're bringing to the table. You're shedding light on a lot of things that musicians and singers need to do to be successful, and that's really what we talk about here on this podcast. So thank you so much for
thank you
here.
for having me. And I know it's you interviewing me, but I just want to say that I admire you too, T. Just your musicianship, your knowledge. It's just, it's invaluable. And so a lot of times, we think about people like, well, why aren't they need to be? But sometimes you are where you are because it's a purpose that you're serving. So I think that what you're doing here, just exposing others, those who don't necessarily get a chance to be exposed on a different platform, you're giving us that platform to do that. So I appreciate you, sir.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we'll catch you later. See you next time.
Bye.